Well, hello there, and welcome back to episode 3 of Lost Codex Legends. My name is Jesse, and today, we're going to be talking about someone very important. One of the most influential characters in Warcraft history, and that is War Chief Thrall. Now, I know what you're saying. Some of you who know that I'm a Garrosh fan, you must be saying, Jesse, have you come around? Have you changed your mind? No, I can acknowledge and appreciate Thrall's story. And today, we're going to talk about Thrall's story from the very beginning, when he was a little baby, to the end of Classic, because this is the Classic edition. We're going to talk about all the things he did in Warcraft 3, and everything he did up until the end of Classic WoW. This is not Thrall's only video. Thrall will get another video after this, at some point in the future, but this is covering everything he did to the end of Classic, for this is the Classic edition of Thrall, hence the very outdated Thrall model in the thumbnail. We were going to go for the Warcraft 3 model, we chose not to. But, let's get right to it. Let's dive right in to Thrall's story. Now, by now, most of us know that Thrall's Orcish name is Goel. Baby Goel was born to Durotan, chieftain of the Frostwolves, and his mate Draka. Now, back in the day, Draka and Durotan were not in the Horde's good books. Gul'dan had exiled them and the Frostwolves north, made a threat to Durotan that he would kill every last Frostwolf should Durotan resist or make contact with the Horde. He didn't dare kill Durotan then, because if he did, Durotan would be a martyr for all of his outspoken warnings, and so Durotan obliged with the outcasting and went north. When Draka gave birth to Goel, and Durotan saw that Goel's skin was green, that was it. That was the last straw, and Gul'dan needed to be dethroned. So, he went to Orgrim, and had a secret meeting with Orgrim in Lochmodan with his wife and baby Goel, warned him of all the mysterious things that he suspected Gul'dan of having, connections to demons, and the mysterious warning he had received from a stranger, the night before the orcs drank the blood, all the stuff, and Orgrim agreed that Gul'dan and Black Hen needed to be dethroned, but they needed to abide their time. So Orgrim sent his personal guards to escort Durotan and Draka and Goel back to the Frostwolves, while Orgrim went back to the Horde to wait. Now, unfortunately, Orgrim's guards were not loyal to him. They were loyal to the Shadow Council, and they heard everything. And so a couple days into the journey, they ambushed Durotan and Draka, and absolutely brutally massacred them. If you guys have read Lord of the Clans by Christy Golden, Durotan and Draka's death scene is awful. Durotan loses an arm in the battle, he watches Draka die, and the assassins don't even kill Goel, obviously. They actually tell Durotan that they're going to let him survive, and they hope that wolves and crows rip him apart. And so Durotan bleeds out and watches his son scream in the middle of this frozen wasteland, until baby Goel is found by a hunting party of humans, led by Aedelus Blackmore. Now, Blackmore is a noble from Durnhold, and at this point, Stormwind hasn't fallen yet, but they have received reports from Stormwind about these mysterious creatures named orcs, and they realize that these orcs are real. Blackmore doesn't tell anyone that he has a secret orc at first. Blackmore decides he's going to take this little orc back to Durnhold so he can study it, learn everything he can about the enemy, and so baby Goel is taken back to Durnhold, where he is given the name Thrall. And for the rest of Thrall's story, up until much later, he takes on that name. Now, Thrall is raised by the humans in Durnhold, and Blackmore teaches him a whole bunch of stuff. He teaches him strategy, he teaches him philosophy, he teaches him how to read and write. Whether he does it personally, it's not the case, but he shapes Thrall with human teachings. But he also throws him into the gladiator pit. So Thrall's whole life, from a young child to a teenager, is fighting in this gladiator ring. And usually not fair fights, usually against a bunch of other humans, and Thrall has this brutal upbringing. Now, Blackmore has a plan for Thrall. At this point, the First War and the Second War is over, and the Orcish Horde is just rotting in internment camps, and Blackmore wants Thrall to lead them under Blackmore's command, dismantle the Alliance, and Blackmore can live in this weird, bizarro world where he is leadership and the Horde serves him. but he's not a kind master. He is brutal, he is savage, he is arrogant, and Thrall is beaten for most of his life. Thrall has one friend in Durnhold, and her name is Taretha Foxton. Now, Taretha is the daughter of Thrall's wet nurse. Now, ever since they were children, Taretha has maintained contact with Thrall through little notes and meeting when they can. And when Thrall is in this really dark period, and he's succumbing to despair, and he has just been savagely beaten in the gladiator ring, Thrall wants to escape, and Taretha helps him with that. So with a distraction, she sets this diversion, Thrall escapes, she gives him supplies, and off he goes into the wild to start his own D&D campaign. Now, he gets captured pretty fast by some humans, and thrown into a different internment camp, where he learns a little bit about Orcish history and Gul'dan, and he learns to seek out someone named Grom Hellscream. Now, the reason why the other orcs don't really care to escape with Thrall is they are afflicted with this lethargy, this sort of just depressive attitude where none of the orcs, they have been beaten, they have been rounded up, they have no drive to do anything. But Thrall has tasted freedom. Thrall escapes and manages to find the war songs and manages to find Grom. Now, with Thrall, he carries a small little blue cloth from the blanket that was wrapped around him, I guess, as a baby. And for some reason, Blackmore always kept it, and Thrall always had it. And when he shows it to Grom, Grom identifies him as a Frostwolf, says, "Oh, I recognize this, you are of Frostwolf descent." And, Grom has a little teaching moment with Thrall, teaches him Orcish, teaches him some things, and then sends him on his way. Go find the Frostwolves, they're up in the mountains. Thrall goes to the mountains, and there he meets Drekthar, who is slowly started to rekindle his connection with the elements. After Gul'dan banished them to the Northlands, Drekthar renounced his use of the Fel, and the elements started to slowly respond. Now here is where Thrall really starts to learn about Orcish history. Drekthar teaches him everything from what shamans are to everything they did back in the day on Draenor, and obviously Drekthar realizes this is the son of Durotan and Draka. As time goes by, Thrall is accepted into the clan, and one of the Frostwolves named Snowsong accepts Thrall as her chosen master. She chooses Thrall. During his initiation, Thrall befriends the elements of air, earth, fire, and water, and the element of spirit, the element of the wilds. This is a huge moment, because the elements have not taken on new shamans ever since Gul'dan corrupted the first horde. And so, through Drekthar, Thrall is taught shamanism. So he's now been raised as a gladiator, and now he's stepping into a second spec and he's becoming a shaman. During this time when Thrall is learning about Orcish tradition and the pride that his people once felt, and the contrast in which he saw in the internment camps, a stranger comes to camp, an orc stranger, obviously. And this orc stranger Thrall tried to befriend, but the stranger's a dick. He calls Grommash Hellscream demon-ridden. He calls the Frostwolves a bunch of cowards for hiding up in the mountains, and he says humans aren't worth fighting. Now Thrall takes offense to all of these comments and challenges this stranger to combat. The stranger throws off his cloak, and he has this massive warhammer in his hand and this black iron plate, and the two fight, and Thrall manages to disarm the stranger, and then tries to choke him, but the Frostwolves hold him back. The stranger laughs and introduces himself as Orgrim Doomhammer. You find out that Drekthar had alerted him of the son of Durotan's return, and Orgrim wanted to see for himself if he was deserving of the praise. And not only did he challenge Orgrim, but he bested him in combat, something that's only been done once by Durotan a long time ago. So this is an emotional moment for Orgrim as he sees his former best friend, who he still holds the guilt of sending Durotan to his death by accident many years ago, on his shoulders. But in front of him, he sees much of what he saw in Durotan. He sees Thrall filled with this level of hope. Thrall has now tasted freedom. Thrall has learned of the nobility of his Orcish clans, and there's this desire to bring that back. This fuels Orgrim and Thrall in a new mission where they're going to set free the orcs from the human internment camps. Together with the war songs, they storm several internment camps and really start to get the orcs who are imprisoned riled up. Their lethargy starts to fade as they can feed off of the energy of Thrall's optimism, of his hope. He's not trying to rile them up into a bloodthirsty warband. He's trying to free them. He wants to give them freedom. He wants to give them their life back, something worth fighting for. And Thrall is not using this horrible fell magic from years prior. He is, he radiates power as a shaman, and he radiates power as leader. Even though Orgrim is war chief, he is Orgrim's second in command. Now, unfortunately, in one of the last internment camp raids, Orgrim dies, or he gets mortally wounded. He gifts the Doomhammer and the Doomplate to Thrall and names him war chief, as we can see in this picture from Chronicle. And Thrall affixes a small Frostwolf sigil to the Doomhammer and marches on Durnhold. Now, when he gets to Durnhold, he tries to parley with Blackmore, and Blackmore, who has always had a drinking problem, is drunk at this point, and refuses and executes Taretha Foxton and throws her head down at Thrall's feet. And Thrall, looking down at the head of his former childhood best friend, storms the keep and kills Blackmore himself. Now, after Thrall kills Blackmore, the civilians of Durnhold aren't killed. In fact, Thrall lets them take a little bit of supplies and sends them back to the Alliance with a message saying they were forced to surrender, free the orcs, and cede the land there to the orcs. If they did, there could be trade and peace. Thrall was willing to do this. If the Alliance chose to fight, Thrall promised them a war the likes of which they've never seen. After this, Thrall caves in much of the fortress of Durnhold in on itself. It's why it's a big ruin in game.